All right. I want to start with a story. Months ago, I was having lunch with some colleagues, and we had a conversation. Now, mind you, I didn't watch a lot of movies growing up, so the movie about Die Hard came up. Have you guys seen Die Hard? Okay. So, show of hands, who believes that Die Hard is a Christmas movie? Okay. Who believes that it is not? Okay, so there's only really one true way to find out. So we're here to talk today with Betty Blood. She's our conversational AI voice agent. So actually what I'm going to do now is have Betty call me. And I haven't rehearsed this, so I don't know what she's going to say. And we're just going to see what she says. So Cooper, can we have Betty call me, please? Okay. I turned my notifications off. All right, look, it's working. Perfect. All right.
Hi, I'm calling from the Blood Center at Oklahoma City. My name is Betty Blood, and I'm a virtual agent for the donor relations team. Am I speaking with Darren H?
Yes.
Great. Hi, Darren. You have an upcoming appointment to donate, and I'm calling to confirm that you can still attend that appointment. Your appointment is coming up on Friday, May 9th at 9:30 a.m. at the Downtown Donor Center. Could you please confirm that you'll be there?
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Now,
there we go. Now we know. Now we know. All right. Thank you, Betty, for that. Now let's get us started. Okay. Here's our speakers. Brennan and Danielle are both much smarter than I am. They're going to do most of the talking. They will be up soon. I'm just the pretty face. Okay. Thank you for not laughing because that wasn't a joke, so I appreciate that. So real quick on Betty Blood and what she can do. So she's our conversational AI voice agent. So when we started this process a year and a half ago, we interviewed dozens of potential partners. We chose Gridspace. They're here today to help us. We have Kevin in the back. Cooper, he's really hard to spot. He's in the cowboy hat. And then Brennan, who will be speaking here in a second. And so we interviewed dozens of partners because we really wanted someone that took AI seriously, right? We're not going to go to ChatGPT. We're not going to OpenAI, right? Those are not secure. Those are not safe. You do not trust your patient data with those tools, I hope. So we went with Gridspace, and it was really enlightening to hear how much goes into using true AI, and that's what Brennan's going to talk about here in a little bit. So we with Gridspace, we created Betty. And Betty's doing great. She's working for 9 blood centers. We'll give you some stats later. And we also want this to be interactive. So you'll have a chance to talk with Betty later if you would like. Amy was a star of our show last year, so I know she's super excited to try to volunteer to talk to Betty. But here's our current use cases and what we can do with Betty today. So reminder calls, call and remind you of an appointment. That's what she just attempted to do with me, and then I asked her about Die Hard. Thank you for scheduling your appointment. That's a use case that's going really well. Superlapse donation calls. So, those donors that haven't donated for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it takes a long time to get them to pick up the phone, right? But some of them still do. Betty does that work, and then when they're ready to donate, she transfers to a live agent, and then we're working on some inbound use cases as well. So, I thought we would start. I want to introduce my colleague, my partner, most importantly, my friend Danielle. And she's with New York Blood Center, and she's going to take us through kind of their experience, listen to a couple example calls, and then we'll go from there. So, Danielle.
Once again, my name is Danielle Delfino, and I am the Associate Director of Contact Center Operations for the New York Blood Center. I've been in the blood banking industry for 6 years now. Next month is actually my 6-year anniversary. But my entire professional career has been spent in the contact center space, which spans about 20 years. So I obviously started when I was only 9. So with that being said, like State Farm, I think I can say I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two. I'm excited to be here today to share with you my experience with Betty Blood as well as the implementation process that we went through to get where we are now. So we started using Betty Blood about 6 months ago in 2 of our divisions. That's the New York division and Kansas City division. Entirely supported by Incept calling right now. And so I'd like to, before saying anything else, share with you a reminder call from one of our actual blood centers. I just want to note that there are some pauses that you'll hear because we did take out any identifying information related to the donor. So this is intentional. It's not a oopsie. So.
Hello, I'm calling from Blood Center Reminders team. My name is Betty Blood. I am a virtual assistant and we're on a recorded line. Is available?
Yes.
I'm calling today to remind you of your appointment to give a life-saving blood donation for your communities. Every time you donate blood, you touch as many as 3 lives, and we are relying on your help to keep the blood supply at a safe level. Your whole blood appointment is scheduled for Sunday, April 6, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. at. You'll want to bring your photo ID, eat a good meal, and be well hydrated. If you need to reschedule your appointment, please call us at 800-933-2566. Would you like to hear those details again?
No.
One last question, Virginia. Are you able to keep your appointment?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
So I think we can all agree that was a pretty seamless interaction, right? Straight to the point. We got the information that we needed, and we did it without live people having to do it, right? So I think that the donor experience is great with this model. So shortly after we started with reminder calls, we began recruiting some extremely lapsed donors, to what Darren alluded to. And so with that, I'd like to share now a reminder call.
Hello, this is Betty Blood calling on behalf of Blood Center on a recorded line. Is available?
Speaking.
I'm calling today to thank you for being a blood donor in the past. Through your kindness, you have literally saved lives. Our records show that it's been a while since your last donation, and the need for blood is great, so we really could use your support again. I'm going to connect you with one of our specialists so that they can give you more information about how you can help, okay?
Okay.
Perfect. I'll have you connected in just a moment.
So again, a pretty seamless interaction. That donor is now going to speak with a live agent and be able to book their appointment. And in this campaign, these are donors we haven't seen in more than 5 years. So it's tapping into some of that untapped potential that we have. Due to the success that we saw with Betty with our reminder calls, we're actually implementing right now in divisions that are supported by internal contact centers. So 100% of my team will be able to continue recruiting versus making time-consuming reminder calls. Getting Betty up and running was remarkably easy. I have to say the Incept team deserves the highest praise. They did so much of the work up front for us, so there was very little for us to test and vet through by the time the product got to us. And so we were immediately impressed by Betty's accurate pronunciation. I was surprised by how much she doesn't sound like a robot. I think sometimes you get that canned, almost like Charlie Brown's teacher, like rah, rah, rah. And that's not what you get here with Betty. And coming from Rhode Island, we have some unique city and town names. I was so impressed when we started with the Rhode Island Blood Center's reminders, how easily she could say the word Aquidneck in Woonsocket. She also knows how to say ours, so you're never going to hear Betty say "Park the car," right? So she really knows what she's doing. Leading up to the launch, I did have some reservations, right? AI is still kind of new, it's kind of cutting edge, and I was concerned about how the donors were going to react to Betty. So I am very excited to share that their acceptance of this new process has been overwhelming. Out of nearly 90,000 calls, only 85 donors have chosen to not interact with Betty. So I'm going to say that again because it's not a typo and a mistake. 90,000 phone calls, only 85 have opted out of speaking with Betty and have gone to a live agent, which I think is telling, right? So again, my experience has been fantastic. I'm really eager to see how we can continue to use Betty in our day-to-day operations. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be around conference for the next couple days, so feel free to stop by. I'm happy to kind of share more about what I learned along the way. Thank you.
All right, so Brennan is up here in a second. I'll get your deck up. So we asked Brennan to do something very difficult, which is explain some very complicated concepts to you guys in just a few minutes. Because, again, when I started, you hear AI and you think, you go to ChatGPT, right? But that's not what we needed for you guys, right? We had to be secure. We have to be careful with patient data. This isn't as simple as programming if-then statements. Yeah, we had fun with the diehard, but it's not like that's not how you program to have conversations with real donors. There's a lot that goes into it. So Brennan's going to give you just a sneak peek into some of those things. And Brennan and Cooper are available throughout the day and this evening as well. There's nothing more they'd rather do than talk AI over a few drinks tonight, so you're welcome to grab them. So Brennan, all yours.
Great, thanks Darren for the introduction. I'm Brennan, I work at Gridspace, which is an AI company, and we are the brains behind Betty Blood. So to understand exactly how Betty Blood works, I think we first need to understand the tech that powers Betty Blood. So this type of technology is called conversational AI, which is an AI that can carry out real human conversations in natural human language. So think ChatGPT, for example, like you put text in and it responds with human text back to you. Voice AI is an extension of this, where we carry out conversations exclusively in the medium of voice and spoken language. So if you have the ChatGPT app, for example, you can speak to it and it'll speak back to you. Aside from ChatGPT, some other common applications are virtual voice agents, such as Siri and Alexa, those are virtual voice assistants. A virtual voice agent is what Betty Blood is, and I'll get into this a bit more in a moment. Hopefully this will be the most technical slide, so I'll try and go through it so it's not too boring. But there are a couple key components and models that make up a voice AI system. As you can see at the start, we begin with some speech input, so that's like me saying, tell me a story about a dragon. And then the first thing that needs to happen is we need to transcribe that speech or that audio into the actual text. And this happens by a process called automatic speech recognition. And then once we have that text, then there's two steps we need to do next. The first is called natural language understanding, where we kind of extract the intent and the meaning behind the text. And then the second is natural language generation, where we then generate the response. In modern systems, this kind of just happens in one big model that does all of these things. It's a large language model, which is what ChatGPT is and what OpenAI is. And as Darren mentioned at Gridspace, we built our own language models, so we don't use OpenAI. And this way we can guarantee high trust HIPAA compliancy and also manage hallucinations, because that's a big fear with large language models at the moment, is them making up information. So by building our own, we can really tailor it to these use cases. Once you put the text in, you'll get a response back out. And then the final step is just to convert that text back into speech. And that's called text-to-speech, or TTS. Great, so getting back into what an actual virtual voice agent is, which is what Betty is, a virtual voice agent, or VVA for short, are essentially just AI-powered agents that can provide capability beyond just a simple conversation. There's a lot of extra things that they need to accomplish. So first of all, they need to actually carry out long conversations. If you think about Siri or Alexa, you maybe speak to it for 30 seconds, ask it to do something, and it does it. But these conversations can go from 2 to 5, 10, maybe even 20 minutes. And the AI system needs to be able to maintain context and remember where it is in the conversation and what else it needs to do. Obviously, to make these agents useful, they have to complete a range of specific tasks. Maybe in this case, they're reminding a patient about their appointment, or maybe they need to gather some information from the patient. Another important thing, which is kind of the whole purpose, is that it needs to integrate with different telephony systems so that it actually works over the phone. And this is pretty challenging. And then as well, we need these agents to be able to interact with the real world. So we want them to be able to retrieve information and maybe reference knowledge about the company they work for, or input data into some external data source like a CRM. And then finally, and most importantly, it's just crucial that these virtual voice agents recognize their own limitations and know when they need to transfer to a human live agent. And in some cases, if there's not a human agent in the loop, they need to be able to apologize and say, handle that gracefully, and maybe say, I'll take a note of that and make sure it gets to the right person. Making customers and patients feel heard is obviously very crucial. So understandably, there are a lot of challenges when it comes to building these systems. That human conversations are incredibly complex, and there's a lot of nuances that we kind of take for granted in our own speech, but that are pretty difficult to actually engineer. So the first of these is turn taking and interruptions. So this is essentially just making sure the agent knows when it's listening and when it's its turn to speak, so that it's not interrupting the human caller that it's talking to. Another thing is handling noisy backgrounds, like say the virtual voice agent is calling someone on the phone and that person has a really loud TV in the background. It needs to be able to distinguish between what is the caller saying and what is just like the TV noise in the background. So it's important that our spoken dialogue systems and our LLMs are able to manage these complexities, and how we do that is kind of by balancing a couple different trade-offs. And this is essentially why you can't really just plug something into OpenAI or ChatGPT and hope it will do all these things for you, because it's a lot more complex than just generating some text response. So the first of these trade-offs is latency versus carefulness. Essentially what the problem here is that we want to make sure that our virtual voice agents are being really careful and thoughtful in their responses. First of all, so just that they're saying the right thing and doing what they're supposed to, but also to make sure that they're not saying anything incorrect. And sometimes this can obviously take some time, but on the other hand, you don't want it to take too long, because then there's just like awkward silence and then the human caller might have a bad experience. So balancing this trade-off between not having the agent take too long, but also making sure that its responses are thoughtful and intentional is something that we continue to work on at Gridspace and with Betty Blood in particular. The final of these trade-offs is autonomy versus reliability. So what this essentially means is we have an issue here because we want these virtual voice agents to be powerful and intelligent and make decisions without human intervention. But we also want them to be reliable and make sure that they're doing what we want them to do every time. And these things are just in direct tension with each other. Like the more autonomy you give these systems, the less you can control like exactly what it's going to do every time. So at Gridspace, we've developed some tools that provide structure on top of our LLMs and also make this like balance, make navigating this balance easier for our end users. So like Incept, for example, was able to use some of our tools to quickly customize and make their own virtual agent, which they've called Betty Blood. And I can get into more of these tools later. If anyone has any questions, they can find me at our booth. But yeah, that's why these are pretty challenging. And it's great to see how well Betty Blood is working for Incept and New York Blood Centers.
Thank you, Brennan. All right, a couple quick things, then we'll give you guys a chance to talk to Betty. I worked with Brennan for a year and a half. I found out yesterday she grew up in London. I don't hear an accent. Does you guys hear an accent? Yeah, I don't hear one. Okay, so I love the whole, Brennan, back a slide. This one's great, right? Because we've had customers so many times like, is Betty thinking for 2 seconds? Yeah, she actually is, right? Because what we don't want to do is give the wrong answer. So that whole latency versus carefulness, that is a real big topic, and I think you guys have just nailed kind of the mastery of where that balance is. And same here. So Betty's doing great. These stats are a little bit older. She's well over 100,000 calls now. I think they're great stats. So 9 blood centers, 2 more under configuration right now. She loves to learn through these tools that Brennan said, knowledge bases, playbooks, and coaching sessions. So every day she's getting better at these things, which is great. And amazing, that's what she can do. Reminder calls is interesting because some of our customers weren't doing any calls, they were just texting. And then they said, well, we can have Betty call as well, and show rates went up. So I thought that was great too, as another tool that people still do pick up the phone, and this helps show rates. So if you're not calling today, Betty can do that for you. Danielle mentioned this one, the people that just don't donate, haven't donated 5, 6, 7 years. Thank you calls has been great for us. These are some of the stats. We're well over 100,000 dials now, and getting, it's about 63% show rate, which we don't even count the reschedule. So it's really a lot higher than that when you count people that have rescheduled the appointment. It's a very high show rate there. This was really interesting because in her first full month at a Midwestern blood center, she actually outperformed live agents by 2.25%. That means her show rate was 2.25% better than live agents. Why could that be? Well, we optimized time of day with Betty because guess what? Betty can make as many calls as you want concurrently. You know what else is cool about Betty? She doesn't get tired. She doesn't call off. The calls are very consistent, right? And so she outperformed live agents by 2.25%. we only had 1.38% even asked to talk to a human, which we thought was great. That means she's handling over 98% of the calls on her own with all those tools that Brennan talked about and the work that went into Betty. So we have a few minutes left here. Would anyone like to talk to Betty live real quick before we give you a chance to go to lunch and win the glasses? Anyone? Amy? Amy wants to talk to Betty? Okay, this is Amy. All right, yeah, I'll come to you. This is Amy. What city do you live in? Amy in Springfield. Can you put, so Cooper's going to give Betty a little kind of live coaching here. This wasn't, Amy was our star last year, so I figured she would want to volunteer, but he's doing this live, so, and then I got to get my phone, because I think Betty's going to call us, right, Cooper?
Hi, I'm calling from Springfield Blood Center. My name is Betty Blood, and I'm a virtual agent for the donor relations team. Am I speaking with Amy S?
Yes.
Great. Hi, Amy. You have an upcoming appointment to donate, and I'm calling to confirm that you can still attend that appointment. Your appointment is coming up on Friday, May 9th at 9:30 a.m. at the Downtown Donor Center. Could you please confirm that you'll be there?
I'll be there.
Great. I have you confirmed. Before we wrap up, on behalf of the Oklahoma City Blood Center, thank you for doing the selfless and life-saving work of donating blood. Now, real quick, I just have some information that I'm required to share with you. Please remember to get a good night's sleep, stay hydrated, and eat a good meal before you donate, and do not consume alcohol before your appointment. Do you have any questions you'd like to get answered before your appointment?
No, Betty.
All right, then. Once again, thank you for donating blood, and thank you for taking the time to confirm your appointment with me. Have a great day.
That was it. Live call. So thank you for that, Betty. We're almost out of time, so we can take more calls later at the booth. I'll put up the number you guys got to call, and I'll leave this up for a second as we wrap up. We can take questions now, over lunch, or at the booth. So thank you guys so much.